Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, Attorney Kim Hegwood of Your Legacy Legal Care, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
It's like, good morning. Welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and my very special guest today is Prisca Mendez Asaro, and she's with the Alzheimer's Association out of Kansas. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Kim. I appreciate being here.
Well, you have some good information that I know our listeners are going to want because, family dynamics, being what they are, so we're going to talk about caring for mom when the siblings disagree. And I'll tell you, and you probably already know this, it happens more than not. And so I tell clients all the time, the one taking care of the mom doesn't necessarily have problems. It's the ones that aren't doing anything that always have the most to complain about.
Right. That's true.
And, but I don't know that, being an only child is the best thing either. So let's talk about that. So large family versus, one child doing it, so is having a large family helpful, not helpful?
I think it's, just depending on how your communication stays open. I have, 4 siblings. So I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, which, when you consider the caregiving circle, so to say, it's great to have that. But when it comes down to really making decisions, it can be a hindrance. People have different ideas of, what exactly Alzheimer's and dementia is and how do you take care of someone? Because as you know, with other diseases, whether it's, cancer or diabetes, the person is still there involved in their care and you're giving them, medicines or radiation or those type. But with this, you're kind of almost sitting back, waiting for something to happen to help with. And then, put in the other dynamic of having siblings that are kind of spread all over the United States. How does that work? So it can be a little bit of both, but for us, I think one thing that helped was getting together on, we do care consultations at the Alzheimer's Association, whether it's in person or video. So you have the entire team together, so to say, and you're all getting the same information, the same facts, how to do things and how to navigate. Because when you're getting information from your neighbor and someone is getting information from somebody at work, and then you're trying to make these decisions, that's when your personalities come into play and they are even more elevated. So that just creates, conflict within trying to make a decision.
Yeah, that I can appreciate. And so I think sometimes too, the larger the family, the more difficult it is to come to a consensus.
Exactly.
So then it's a matter of, okay, now the war's on. Who's going to be, who's right, who's wrong, who's going to do this. And so.
Yeah, Kim, one of the things that we did, because, altogether there's 5 children. So we made a decision ahead that majority rules, which was a great idea at the beginning. But then you have maybe someone that's not on the majority and they start saying, well, my thoughts don't even matter. So why do I even say anything? Which just brings in, another another piece of conflict, with somebody feeling like their opinion doesn't matter. So they just don't say anything. And then they may not be as engaged in the actual caregiving as the other ones are.
So when you have that sibling that, kind of, checks out, just says, you know what, do whatever you want to, you're not listening to me anyway. How do y'all handle that sort of thing? Because we don't want mom or dad to not spend time, with the kids, at least. Mm-hmm. Having them there and, helping with the process. So what do you do in that circumstance?
For us, it was a lot of, trial and a lot of error. But it was finding, what that person was good at, and maybe they were good with, finances and making phone calls. So being a caregiver for someone doesn't always mean physical care. It could be maybe they're the ones that are going to take care of all of the insurance questions and the financial, issues that come along with this. So it's trying to find something that plays to the strengths of that particular person. The door was always open for anyone to come over and visit at any time, but not everyone is. I don't know what the right word is, but you hear, well, I can't stand seeing mom that way. Well, none of us can, right? So you can do video calls. We use FaceTime a lot just so that they could, communicate. And you're so busy taking care of the person that you're supposed to that unfortunately sometimes you kind of get the thought of, okay, well, if you don't want to be involved, then we just need to keep moving with this train. Hoping that, they'll catch up eventually. Just keep communicating with them about things that are happening. And hopefully, as it did with us, they caught up and they realized, but that doesn't always happen. And I think people feel bad because they might feel like they're leaving them behind, but you still have to stay focused on caring for the person that is going through and living with these types of diseases.
Yeah, most definitely. And so, what about the angry siblings? And so you see those a lot, I'm sure. And,
you do. I'll tell you a little bit about my personal story. So we kind of took shifts, and I was fortunate enough to have a very supportive husband that I stopped working for about 18 months, give or take. My husband was in Florida. I moved in with my mother in her home. So it was just the two of us there. And it was during COVID. So I couldn't, take her to, the respite care down at our local Kansas City Shepherd Center. I couldn't do any of that. So it was consistently me and mom. No visitors because it was COVID. And in the middle of all of this, my husband had a car accident. I mean, he was okay, but I was stressing about him. I needed to get to Florida to check on him. And, everyone in my family will tell you that I am probably the one that's very calm and, oh, she's so strong. And, I don't have these outbursts, or anything like that. But I felt when I got the siblings together and I said, I really need to go to Florida. I need someone to come and stay with mom so that I can go. And, I understand everyone has a life. But when I heard, I can't do this, it's not in my schedule, I'm not able to do that, I just lost it because I was struggling and I was under so much stress. And so I, raised my voice and, all of these feelings just came out all at once. So I was the angry one, at that time. I was feeling frustrated. And basically, they said, what, just, if you're going to be yelling and screaming like this, just get off the call. And I did. And so I sat down and kind of got my thoughts together and I, kind of got everything and calmed down. But, I feel like when something like that happens, there should be someone in the family that calls that person and says, hey, are you okay? And one of my brothers did. He's like, it's okay to have these outbursts. It's okay. We're going to work it out. It's going to be fine. So for me, one of my siblings reached out to make sure that I was okay and that, we could work this. And we did. We came up with a plan. I was able to go, but I was at a point where I needed an immediate answer. And obviously they weren't able to do that. So I was the angry one at the time. And I think making sure that I felt, or the main caregiver felt supported and understood is a really important thing to do, because it's very easy to just say, you know what, she's yelling, she's screaming, I don't want to talk with her anymore, and then to be totally shut out. So I think it's just, having that communication, having that one sibling or friend or neighbor, whoever the care support group is, to be able to identify that and just kind of calm things down, almost a referee, if you will.
So do you recommend that, because my first thought was, y'all should have a calendar in place, and your siblings should be taking a weekend. You
Yes.
know, they should
Mhm.
all be alternating. So just get on the schedule. Whether you needed to be off or not, you get on the schedule. That's your weekend to come stay with mom so that you
Mhm.
can sleep, nap, get your hair done, go see a movie, whatever. Just decompress, because I'm a huge
Yeah.
proponent of caregivers taking care of themselves. And so I think sometimes that as caregivers, we don't think about, hey, we should plan ahead for just taking the time off. And so, because I think that would have, if that would have been the case, it would have been somebody else's weekend. And
Right.
it wouldn't have even been an issue because they would have already been there and you could have gone. And
Right.
so I think pre-planning sometimes is so important with families, that way, because it's hard. Like my schedule's crazy.
Mhm.
And so for me to stop and do something, I have to juggle about three or
Right.
four different people's schedules in order for me to do that. And so, but if I plan ahead, I'm good. You know,
Right.
I,
You have that time set aside. And
yeah,
Kim, hindsight being 2020, what a great thing that would have been. We had that to a certain extent when my husband and I said, you know what, you're going to go down there, you're going to live with your mom and take care of her. It was decided between all of us that, okay, once a month, someone come and spend the weekend. And, but I think what the problem ended up being was this whole COVID thing. Nobody was traveling, nobody was going anywhere. So I think, and we kind of muddled our way through to come up with this plan. But it doesn't have to be, a pandemic. You can plan around those things. And in my position, I hear that a lot. Well, I really need my siblings to come and help me. And it bothers me when I see them on Facebook going out to the lake and skiing, and here I am, struggling, to make it. And I think people don't think about that. As you know, it can be very lonely when you are the only caregiver, and then you see everyone kind of living their life. And I think sometimes other people that are part of the care group don't really think about that. So it's almost like, make sure that you have this plan, but also be considerate of the person that is, taking care of, their mother or your father, and not letting them feel like they're being taken advantage of. Be considerate, those types of things, because as you know, all of those little things can just, make someone feel horrible and even more alone.
so one of the things we talk to clients about when it comes to, just planning purposes,
Mhm.
for successor trustees coming in and things like that, you limit problems in families if you're transparent, volunteer information, transparency, the whole 9 yards. How does misinformation create more sibling disputes?
Oh, yes. Well, I have a great example. So when my mother was with me, she woke up one day and was kind of holding her side. And, of course, I'm like, did you fall? Well, she can't really tell me these things. So I went ahead and I took her to the doctor, and they did an x-ray there at the doctor's office. And he said, well, she may have, broken a rib, and sometimes at her age, it could have happened by coughing. It, could have been anything. And after the x-rays came, he said, well, we didn't see any breaks. She may have just strained a muscle or whatever the case would have been. So I brought her home because there wasn't anything really to report. Everything came back fine, and, she was eating, and, everything seemed to be okay. And so probably a day later, I got a phone call from my older sister, who was out of state, that the doctor's office had called her and said, your mother has, two broken ribs. They had been cracked. So immediately my sister calls me, and why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, well, because they told me that everything was fine. I didn't think I needed to, alarm anyone, because everything turned out okay. And of course, that was a lesson learned, because the next thing that comes up is, what else didn't you tell me? What else is going on? Did she fall? Well, not anything that I had seen. So that can, cause more problems. So transparency is huge, whether, it's just, like I said, something like that I was told was nothing. And then the doctor rechecked and, and these happen. So that will definitely, as you know, cause issues. And I can even take it one step further. Now that I look back, I realized that my fraternal grandmother had to have some kind of dementia. And she had told, my father had 8 siblings, and she had told one of them that my aunt had taken some money. This was before they realized that she had any kind of cognitive concerns. So now the whole family is mad at the one aunt because they sincerely think she took grandma's money. And then it came out. So it's part of this, disease. So being transparent at this kind of patient with cognitive concerns is extremely important. It should always be, but especially in my case, it's this whole dementia Alzheimer's thing that really requires that transparency.
So how can the primary caregiver help out a role for everybody? When you got a lot of siblings, how do you divvy up responsibilities? Is it, do y'all do it by agreement? Do you do it by going, hey, you're the best one, can you do this? You're the best one for this role, can you do this? Do you divvy it up, or you let them decide who the best one is for?
Well, what we do for me, with the help of the Alzheimer's Association, when my mother was first diagnosed, I used to do, I did care management on a neurology floor for a hospital. So I saw the end of Alzheimer's dementia. I never saw the beginning or the middle. So I went to the Alzheimer's Association, where I now work at, and said, give me everything you have. So they have the tools on how to come up with a care plan and these types of things. So the first thing is to, make notes of what is needed to take care of this person, and to make those decisions. So you want to have someone that's going to take care of the financial, duties. You want to have someone that's going to be the one that's over making the decisions for healthcare. You want to have someone that, is she going to live with, one of us? Is she going to stay home? And what does that look like? If you're going to be selling property, then who's the best one to get the house ready, to sell? So we wrote a list of things that we felt we needed to do immediately. And then we just kind of sat down and talked about it. And like I said, my oldest brother is very well versed in planning and financing and, all of these good things. So he handled that, and we were all fine with it. My older sister is also in healthcare. And so she had a little bit more information than we did as far as medications and that sort of thing. So she took on, that piece. My other brother was able to help with getting the house together. And then I was able to actually, like I said, stay with her and live with her. She eventually did go and live with my other sister. We took, taken some turns, trying to keep her at home as much as possible. Aging at home, we felt was the best way. And then the other sister would come and relieve. She still had a young child at home, so things were a little bit more difficult for her. And we even brought in, our kids that were in their early 20s to come over. So everyone was involved. So if you have that family dynamic, and I think we all know how personalities are, someone always has the sister that thinks she's everybody's mother, so use that to your advantage.
Perfect. So it sounds like the Alzheimer's Association did a great job in helping you with tools and all the things that, that a family needs, because they do have all that information. So
they do. They have a lot of resources, and I can tell you one of the top resources support groups are wonderful. It's good to talk with peers and learn tricks of the trade, so to say, that they are doing, that you wouldn't learn from someone else or read in a book. And sometimes you want to not have those conversations with your family members, because you can speak freely, with people that aren't connected to what you're dealing with. But the thing that I always like to mention is the 800 number. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We support over 200 languages. And this could be a phone call anywhere from, I've been forgetful lately. What do I need to keep an eye on? Or I'm taking mom to the doctor because she might have cognitive concerns. What kind of questions should I ask the doctor? What kind of test? What's going on with this new drug? All the way to, I could tell you, I called them one night. I didn't know what sundowners was. And she was acting a little off. And I called and I said, she's not sleeping. She's a little grouchy. I don't know what this is. So they explained it to me. They gave me some tools, maybe play some music, because the music is very soothing. And that is the last part of the memory to go. It's very therapeutic. Play some music, calm her down and these types of things. And then you can go to the doctor, and talk with him on how to take care of this going forward. So the helpline, like I said, is just one of the best tools I feel that is out there, because there is somebody there to answer the phone. And depending on the level of call, it can also be addressed by a master level social worker that can help as well. And they can help you with a care plan. There's so many resources that are available.
Perfect. So how does somebody find you?
Well, you can find me. I'm in the Heart of America chapter, and I support 65 counties in Kansas and Missouri. So the Kansas City area, both sides of the states. And my number at my office is 913-948-8655. My cell number is 239-938-5225. Or you can go to alz.org/Kansas City. If you are not in the Kansas City area, you can still go to alz.org and put in your state, and you'll find your local chapter. All of the information is on the website. If you're looking for a social support group, if you're looking for maybe elder care attorneys, if you're looking for home health, if you're looking for respite, just put in your zip code in alz.org, and all of those resources will pop up.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much. It's a pleasure having you with all your good information. And so
thank you, Kim.
You have a great day.
You too.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.